Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome everyone to another stream. Sorry I didn't have a stream last weekend. It just didn't work out that way. I think I kind of needed a break anyway, but I'm glad I did because this stream is based on a principle that I think is very interesting and worth looking into. As you can imagine from the video description, it has to do with roots of the Arabic language in the Quran. And let me just see who's up early this morning. Greetings, salam alaikum, Miss Ali. Salam alaikum, MH. Peace, Kenneth. Salam alaikum, Sona. Salam alaikum, Dafi. And salam alaikum, Chris. So this is a special stream because if you guys have been watching up until this point, you're probably aware that there is a lot of misconceptions when it comes to exactly what's preserved in the Quran. And we've been kind of led down the garden path, as it were, to simply just take the minute fractional kind of pieces of the Quran as the only thing really worth salvaging. And in reality, it seems like every aspect of what we call today the Quran, they would call it Hafs and asim, but it's just called the Quran. All the other recitations, they're just attempts to sow discord and doubt. Yeah, welcome, Brother Govan. Salam. Salam, Brother Danny. Salam, SA. And so what becomes very apparent is, you don't need much proof to show that really what this book represents is something just you cannot even compare with anything else. It's kind of like it takes on the attributes of Allah, that there is nothing like unto him. And so his speech, it follows that there is just no comparison. From that standpoint, really what's being done by the kind of people that attach themselves to the Quran, like in the kind of mainstream Islam that we see today, is they can only underestimate the authority and power of this revelation. Yeah. So, Salam alaikum, Noel Hassan. Welcome. Yeah, Josh. It's not really a question and answer video. That's a very interesting topic to look into, the concept of Masih in the Quran. Clearly, that's a title of sorts, right? That's not his name. But I would argue that because title can apply to more than one person, that he may not even be the only one that's been called that. And what is that role about? That's an interesting question. I can't say that I know for sure, but that root gives you some kind of idea, because masaha is related to this kind of wiping, or like the kind of verse that people look for, the prayer ablution, so-called prayer ablution. Well, one of it uses that root of wiping by your heads and your feet. almost like you kind of wipe the counter clean of something. And it's interesting that we see Isa al-Masih ibn Maryam. He's actually responsible for a lot of amazing, just kind of like reversals of damage in the Quran. If someone is blind, he makes them seeing. If someone is afflicted with some condition, he cures them of it. If someone is dead in the ground, he causes them, with Allah's permission, to rise back to life. We don't see the opposite of these processes. We just see the kind of life-giving qualities. So maybe Masih has something to do with that. He even was able to take inanimate objects and imbue life with them via the ruh with Allah's permission. Assalamu alaikum, Zahid. Welcome to the stream. Assalamu alaikum, Hannah Banana. Assalamu alaikum, Haytham Bilbasi. So, like I was saying, there is a lot to the Quran that we do not give credit where credit is due. And I've talked about different aspects, trying to kind of open the minds of people who, come usually from either, Sunni background or non-Islamic background, to kind of appreciate that the Quran has undoubtedly explanations that are very logical and consistent. Allah calls this a consistent revelation. Let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat. Where you can derive how to make sense and understand what you're looking at in this kind of seemingly mystical Arabic tongue. Salam Shannon, yeah. Thank you, Haytham. That's good. Thank you, STP. Okay. So I was kind of trying to make sense of this organization of the Quran's words, its vocabulary. And I noticed something pretty striking when I was kind of, over the past few months, you're trying to come up with an understanding of what these words mean, what's their translation. Well, one of the first clues that there is something going on with the classification of these three-letter roots is this word for salah. I think you guys have seen maybe the video. I think it's Livestream 7. But this word, I should say this root rather, of Sad, Lam, Wow. You can see on the screen here. This is the root that we given for Salah. One problem, though, is when you go to a diction, or rather, when you go to the very same word, it just changes the vowel at the end. All of a sudden, it transforms into something totally different. And you get words about burning and exposing something to fire. Well, that didn't make sense to me, because when you go to any dictionary, they don't even make a distinction between that. They put both under the same umbrella root. And how could that be the case if the roots exist to distinguish different concepts? So I thought to myself, well, they're clearly from the same root. And the only difference, which is really an artificial difference, is somebody has put one under the umbrella of Sad, Lam, Ya, and the other group of words under the umbrella of Sad, Lam, Wow. Yeah, Brother Haytham, this is a website called Living Arabic Dictionary. And it's very powerful because it compares classical Arabic, and you can search across any root, any word, and it shows you different dialects as well used today. So if you go here, you don't see anything called Sad Lam Ya. So that's an issue. That means that there's a discrepancy in how roots are classified in Arabic, and I'm going to show you guys more examples, inshallah. Another kind of issue I had was if you go to, the same thing, like you go to this website and let's say you want to look at the word for heaven. So that will be sin mim wow. Okay. So you'll notice right away, if you guys can see my screen, this is the root sin mim wow. Notice again, just so happened to have a vowel at the end. Okay, you'll see why that's important later. And this has the word sama 310 times. That's the word for heaven or firmament. But also the noun asim for name or title. It's kind of an overlap in a sense. According to Qur'an corpus, the word for heaven and the word for name are in the same root. You can notice that if you go to this list, there is no sin, mim, ya. Okay? So keep that in mind. Well, when you go here, what do you see? Again, this is just comparing two different, lists of how these roots are categorized. And I'll show you why this is so important and why I'm doing this stream for that purpose. So same root, sin, mim, wow. To be high, elevated, raised, prominent. Makes sense, right? That's exactly what you would expect for something to be around the heaven. Heaven is all about something elevated and exalted. Notice there is nothing to do with names here, because what I'm going to show you is the word for names. They've actually put under a different root here, unlike Qur'an corpus. So that would be under sin, mim, ya. But look at this. How do you know this word goes under this category, okay, but not under this category? So samiyan means something high, elevated, lofty, exalted. Wait a second, that literally has all the letters of this other root that I've highlighted. Why not? If you don't know anything, how can you accept arbitrarily assign this word to this root and not the other? Or what I'm going to show you is there just no distinction and they're actually one and the same? Because look, this is the root for names now. Sin, mim, ya. There's a bit of a problem here. You can't have this sort of discrepancy without it drawing some kind of attention, right? And the question is, if we notice this discrepancy, clearly it's not from Allah. This is not a system that Allah has condoned its methodology therein. So it came from mankind and probably jinn kind as well. I believe that there is a there is a justification for all of the Arabic words built on these roots. However, there has to be a process by which we know for sure what associations to make. So notice this is all nominating, appointing, naming, designating. But then look at this. Asma, to raise, to elevate. This caught my attention at the time because this word is in both. Sin mim ya, sin mim wow. It can't be like that. That means there is no distinction, because now you have a contradiction here. The same word cannot be in two different roots, except that they're from the same root. Okay, and this is a common Arabic name. Actually, this is the name they tell us in Islam is the sister of Abu Bakr. Okay, or sorry, the sister of Aisha, who's the daughter of Abu Bakr, Asma. So I have two examples here of very understandable, important words: salah, yasli, sama, ism, and they have redundant classifications. So what's the solution? The solution is that the vowels are not part of the root. And it makes sense why, right? So for example, if you're looking at this right now on the screen, right? Notice that the vowels in all the Arabic words, what's their purpose? A consonant, there's, I think, 25 consonants in the Arabic language, and there's 3 vowels exactly. So the purpose of vowels, just like in English, is to create words. That's all it is. They are fluid by nature, whereas the consonants are concrete. They're rigid. So when you see a word like, for example, Islam, I'm just going to show you an example, okay? So just to kind of highlight a principle that everybody will understand. This, okay, this is the word Islam. You guys can see that. Why don't we classify this as a 4-letter root? Okay, called Aleph, Sin, La, Aleph, Mim, or Aleph, Sin, Lam, Mim. Because we all know that the vowel is just there to create the word. This word here, Islam, Aslama, that comes from, etymologically, Salama. Okay, you can see this, right? The vowels just exist to differentiate the words from the roots. That's why we don't put this as a 4-letter root. It's just Salama. There's Istislam, Islam, Aslamu, Yusallimu, Sallim, Silim, Muslim. Because it all revolves around this idea. Salam alaikum, Farooq Ahmed. Welcome to the stream. Salam alaikum, Dale Cranton. Welcome. Okay, so we have that straight, right? Now, if we go back, let me see here. The problem here is simply just one of categorizing, really. And there has to be a standard by which everything can be addressed in the same way when it comes to the Quran and its information. So, for example, if you treat the entire Quran as this abstract metaphor of everything, you will come up with pretty much like infinite conclusions, interpretations. Same thing here. If there's discrepancy, ambiguity in how words are ordered in the Arabic language, based on these arbitrary roots, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have a totally different set of words, how they're organized, than somebody else. Let me show you another example of this. So there's actually a couple websites related to that. Let me see here. So one of which is obviously Islam Awakened and Qur'an Corpus, these Freemasonic websites. Yeah, that's a very good. I was just gonna actually mention something like that. It says Shin Ta Nun, but another dictionary says Shin Ta Ta. Which is it? Has to be one or the other, or neither. Clearly, what you're gonna find actually is every single word in the Quran pretty much reduces down to a 3-letter code. And I know that sounds very strange because there are some words that have 4-letter roots, sometimes 5. And the reason why I feel that is a bit of a lie is because everything in the Quran, including the Arabic language, has to reduce down to this pattern. So if you have 4 letters in a sequence, you don't know where the pattern is. Where's the code? The pattern starts with 3. Okay, so let me just show you an example of this. So if you go to this website, right? This is Islam Awakened. It's a pretty good resource for compiling lists of all these different roots. A lot of them are just kind of not really double checked and there's mistakes in there, but let me just go to one in particular to show you the discrepancies. And this is from mankind. It has nothing to do with the Quran, actually. So one of such discrepancies comes from... Here we go. Ain, Ra, Jim, Wow. Okay? Let me just highlight that. This is apparently a 4-letter root. Now, if you go to Qur'an Corpus, let me just show you guys. You try to find the same one. And what you get is instead of a wow, you get a noon. Okay. So the word is urjuna. Ain, Ra, Jim, Noon. That's apparently a 4-letter root. Do you guys notice a glaring problem? It's just like what Brother Haytham said about shaitan. You already have 3 consonants in there. Ain, Ra, Jim. The noon is just an ending. That's it. So what you'll notice is when the criteria for 3 letters in a root is satisfied. Okay, I'm trying to go slow so people get caught up. The other consonants are just modifiers for the words. That's all it is. I agree, Kenneth. Definitely watch this from the beginning because you will be lost. It is kind of you know paint by numbers, I guess. So tell me, what's the difference here? Ain, Ra, Jim, Nun. Quran corpus. Ain, Ra, Jim, Wow. You can see it's the same word. Urjuni. Why the discrepancy? When you have a discrepancy like this, that means they don't know what they're doing. They're just taking shots in the dark. Allah says, guessing at the unseen. Radman. Or is it Radman? Rajman. Bil ghayb. The solution to this is very simple. The noon is just an ending. If you take the word mu'minin, does that root have a meme in there? No, because the mu is just a prefix, and the in part is just a suffix. What you have is amana, and I'll show you exactly why. You can go deeper than that even. So what this is actually related to, because this is the only time this word is used, this root, and they translate it as date stock. Does that make sense? The moon's manazil are like a date stock, like an ancient date stock. They really try to kind of satirize the Quran like this. These kind of satanic people that they put this like hidden, just the hidden meanings are for them for themselves, while they give us like references to dates throughout the Quran as if it kind of gives the impression we're just in the Middle East the whole time. It's all around dates and sand. No. This word is related to ascension. Why? Because that last letter of this root, wow, just like the last letter of this root, noon, just remove that. What do you have? Araja. In fact, it's right here. They never had to change anything. Ya'rijuna. Oh, look at this. There's a noon here. Ya'rujuna. But that's part of the verb. That's just grammar. It's not arajana. Araja. The power of this approach is you are finding what they have artificially divided from its proper place. So that word for old date stock, it has to be related to this idea from this root. Araja. Those are 3 consonants. You have to do this first, I've realized, before you approach pretty much anything else. This sets the stage. This is the foundation for using the Quran as its own dictionary of terms and vocabulary to define itself. And this is really what they have done, is they have severed what Allah commanded to be joined. That's part of corruption, spreading corruption. And Allah says, you who believe, make sure to work deeds of reconciliation. عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, said it so many times. مُصْلِحُونَ, bring together these things that they have split artificially. So you can see now, even if there's one problem, everything else is to be thrown into this investigation. And that's what, inshallah, we're trying to do, is we're trying to show the Quran is authentic in and of itself by exposing what they had to do to your understanding of the Quran. So you just look at it as this book that's just unintelligible, has just some fanciful poetic speech around all of its stories, and it's no different than the Bible, pretty much. It's just kind of in Arabic or something. No. So I've shown you how vowels are fluid. So then you might say, well, Sola Qur'ana, what is the root for Salah? Because you've already shown how the waw and the ya are ambiguous. It's very simple. It's right there in front of your face. Sod, lam. That's all you need. You don't need vowels. Because what happens is the vowels are just suffixes, prefixes, things you put and insert into the word to lengthen it, to shorten it. When all you have is sod, lam, lam. That's it. That's the root. Sod, lam, lam. You'll find that most words, most roots in Arabic in the Quran are repetitions. So if I go to this idea, right? So let's look at the kind of words that have vowels and use sod and lam and see what they mean. I think I've shown this in the live stream 7 around Salah. So if you go to sod lam, same order. It's not lam sod. That would manipulate things a bit. This has to be the same order. Order matters. But what they've done is they've just added the aleph as part of the code, when it's not. It's just forming a root, forming a word from this root. Sod, lam, lam. What is it about? And this is a perfect word to show this concept, because he's talking about roots. Asluha. Asila. This word asilan, they put as meanings and afternoon. They can't decide. Asila, I showed you in previous streams, is related to your authenticity. The thing that supports you. Because it's related to the root. Asluha. If you guys think this is maybe a bit far-fetched, there's a verse from the Quran that points to this idea. And it's this one right here. أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا. Allah is saying, have you not been shown that Allah sets forth this example? كَلِمَةً طَيِّبَةً كَشَجَرَةً طَيِّبَةً. A healthy word is like a healthy tree. Her roots firm, her branches in the firmament. Even that word for sama is firm. Firmament, firm. Heaven. This is a real tree, by the way. Allah is not going to paint an imaginary picture to show you an example of something fake. He's going to use a real thing to show you how words are related to this concept of trees. It's the perfect metaphor to highlight a principle, even. Words grow like these trees. The first thing to grow for any plant, especially trees, are its roots. Doesn't have firm roots, established roots, and they're all shaky and nobody knows which word belongs to which root. Guess what? The tree dies. You cannot see the connections, let alone see all the branching that happens. It's such a beautiful way of showing this concept. It's right there in our faces the whole time. Allah's not talking how, the sunnah of the Prophet is like this tree. He's not saying the Ahlul Bayt of the Shia are like this. No, he's saying a word, kalima. Think about it. If this was just, me just kind of mentally just playing gymnastics, why is this verse here? It's uncanny resemblance to what we're talking about. So when you see this idea, asl, the root of something, the source, the origin, it's really salal. Sad lam lam. I'll show you another one. Again, they can only hide this very effectively when they add a vowel in there to throw you off. And some people have caught on to this idea that this word is related to salah. Now I'm telling you it is. Wasla. So remember, asl, origin, the thing, the source, the root, the origin, the source. Wasl, connection, joining, reaching something. Basically, it's the same thing we saw with salli and sallu, because they're both vowels trying to be forced in there to separate these concepts that make these words from being all under the same related umbrella. Asl, authenticity, origin, roots, source. Wasl, joining, reaching, connection, contact. Salah, Sali, blessings, prayer, whatever. You can define that one for yourself. Sali, this is burning, heating, exposing to fire. And there's another one too. So those are the four that are all under the same umbrella, Sod, Lam, Lam. If we go back to this one here, we're going to find this. This is Sulsul. What's very interesting about this is it's kind of highlighting what I'm talking about. These two consonants just get mirrored in the words. Sulsul. So they say this is clay, right? I guess it would have to be clay, but let me show you guys what you get from this. So if you go Sod, Lamb, this is what we see. Where is clay in there? I don't see clay in there. Clay, in the same translation, is teen. This is about sound. And that's why they kind of give you a hint as well, right? They say sounding clay, salsal. What even is that? Why would they? Why be so deceptive? Why not just translate things as they are? Or are they trying to hide something? Clattering, jingling, rattling. Now it's dry clay, clayish. Okay. Go down to Egyptian, to ring, like plasticine. And you know what's interesting about this? Look at all the words for clinking, ringing, sound. Okay, that's salsal. Now compare that to this. Whoops. Compare that to sod, lam, lam. Oh, look at that. Same idea. Sallal. Right here. How does this root have the same meanings as the one salsal? To clash weapons? What if I put a word that's not in the Quran, but it's formed the same way? Sawwala. This is what you have to do to really kind of broaden your horizon of understanding. To spring, to jump, leap, attack, assail, assault. Sawwala. Fighting. Okay. I'm gonna take a break. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, thanks. Okay, we're back. Thanks for waiting. So, birdsong, that's the idea. A sail. Um, what I want to show you though is this is so obvious that they're just making fake roots in an attempt to dissociate words that have to go together. And I showed you this example, right? Sawal, sala, yasula. This is related to that word for burning, right? Yasli. And then I showed you this one. Sulsul, clinking, jingling, rattling, clay. Sallal. I think you can basically narrow down everything and simplify everything. And when it comes to the Quran, it uses all of the words you need in the perfect amount of ayahs so you can see those connections. So right now, what I'm telling you is when you have a vowel in there and two consonants, this is like the first principle. There is no vowel in the root. You double the consonant that comes after, which in this case is lam. Sallal. And if you guys are still wondering, why does salsal have 4 letters then? Shouldn't we just accept that as it is? Well, if you ignore the same meaning of sallal, let me show you why. Maybe I can show you here. One sec. Okay, so we're back on Islam Awaken. Let's go to Dal. And yeah, the very first word, if I'm not mistaken, the very first root is Daba. The next one is Dababa. They purposefully obscured this so you wouldn't notice. Dababa. This has the word daba in there. This is about beasts and creatures. Dabatin. That's the root, dababa. If you go back, this one, plight, pursuing, da'ibain, there is no dal alif ba. The alif in there is just part of the words from this root. It's just dal ba ba. You've already just, by process of elimination, reduced and simplified this set of complications to something simple. Okay. But you know what's interesting? Okay, so this word for beast, right? Dababa, dawab, daba. This is actually the word for bear. Dab, deb. And sometimes in the Arabic language today, what they'll do is when there's clearly a word that's what do you call it? Doubled in a way, like dal baba, dabba. They'll actually pluralize that. So they'll say dab deb. Okay? But it's talking about a bear, which is dab. And colloquially, Arabs will do this. They'll say dab dab. So that to me shows exactly what we saw with salsal. Salsal just reduces is a way of elaborating the same idea. Sallal. Salsal. Sallal. That's it. Do you know how many roots there are like this? Where there's 4 letters that are repetitions? Like half of them are like that. Let me show you. So I have a list here, and these are all of them that are repetitions. Waswas, hudhud, la, kabkab, sarsar, صفصف, صلصل, زحزح, زلزل, رفرف, ذبذب, دمدم, حصحص. All you have to do is you take the first letter, the second letter, and repeat the second letter. That's it. So what you see is hudhud becomes haddad. That is the same root for the word for guidance. Huda. You know why? It makes sense. The hudhud bird in the story of Suleiman is the means to guidance for Saba. That's why hudhud and huda have to be related. Same with Mahdi. But you could say that Mahdi is not actually related to guidance. That's something to do with a different. But that's my point. Is we have to start here because this is where the problem begins. There has to be, like you said, AI, harmony. And it's so funny, like you're saying, Kenneth, like we're not actually taking the word from these dictionaries. We're just highlighting the fact that these exist, give us a massive opportunity to just change the game entirely. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The 4-letter root is cumbersome in the Arabic language. The original language of this cosmic order, 3 letters, is the least to make a pattern. It's the strongest structure, like a triangle, right? Triangle is the minimum to make a 2-dimensional shape. And it's the most, like, what do you call it? It's the most efficient, the strongest type of structure, triangles. So, dabbatin, dabdab, dababa. Let me show you an even better example that I think everybody will appreciate. And it goes all the way back to the vowels. Remember, I told you the vowels largely you can ignore when you have more to go off of. So one of such words is the word right here, Adam. This is the name of our ancestor. Do you see a glaring problem here? Adam. The problem is there's a vowel taking a position in this root when you already have sufficient amount of consonants, dal, mim. So to cut to the chase, what this root is actually from, this word Adam, is from the root dammam, dal, mim, mim. You know what dammam means? Put in the chat if you know what this word dammama. It could only relate to Adam. This is the word for blood. Dem. It's the word for dying something. Exactly, Haytham. It's blood. So that's why Adam comes from the same root for the word for blood. Dem. Even in Hebrew, which is based off of Arabic, they tell you the same thing. Edam means something red, rouge, like blood. And that brings me to the same thing, where if we go to dem, well, I just showed you how sulsul is sallal. This is just dal mim mim. And I'm not here to explain what the meaning is behind the... Sorry, you're not seeing my screen. Okay. I'm not here to explain what they mean. But here's the thing, Birdsong. The presence of the aleph is in the word. It's not in the root. Yes, the words have different meanings. That's what I'm saying. But the consonants almost kind of lock them in one umbrella context. So I'm not here to explain the ins and outs of why these things are there. But this is a pattern that cannot be ignored. So that brings me to, let me see here. Okay, here's another idea. Everybody knows about Ar-Rahman, right? Well, Rahman is based off of Rahm, Rahim, Rahman. Nobody will say it's a four-letter root. Ra, Ha, Mim, Nun. No. The Nun is just an ending, like I showed you with Arjuna. Well, same with Shaitan. Because when we go here, and thank you, Haytham, for bringing this up. Shattata. The on is, the on is just an ending. It's like you have shidad, shadid. There's so many consonants that just act like endings in words. They're not part of the roots at all. So when you find a vowel that basically anywhere you find a vowel in a root, it's ambiguous by nature because any vowel, aleph, ya, wow, can fit in there, and it's not part of the root. It's just a placeholder in a way. For example, let me show you. Yeah, this is what I want to show. Shattata, to deviate, digress. That's literally shaitan. To go to extremes, go too far. So you see, if you do a little bit of digging, it'll make sense why these concepts are related. The proof is in the pudding, as they say, right? So let me show you another example. And these are all cases, right? I'm just highlighting the different cases that exist. This is something I talked about before. And this is a root in the Quran currently. And it's ajjaja. Now you would ask, well, Solo Qur'ana, why? What happens here? Because there's only jinn present and there's no other consonant. This is a different case. So in this case, just think about it logically. This vowel, it could be a waw, it could be a ya, it could be an alif. But really, the vowel is just a placeholder for any of those three. It could be alif, ya, it could be waw. And all it does is it just creates a root for this ajjaja, because there's only jim there. There's nothing else you can put there, right? These are the only cases where you can have vowels part of roots, pretty much. When there's only one consonant there. And it's usually doubled because that seems to be a big pattern. Another example of this is wiswis. This you use for whispers, right? I mean, you can go through every single one of them and just one off the other. It's like math problems. Just simplify the fraction, reduce it to the common denominator. Common denominator is you have a vowel and dal. So the vowel comes first and dal is double. Addad, waddad, yaddad. And what you're going to notice is that you're going to make entire, whoops, I didn't show this again. Sorry about that. You're going to make entire lists where they, like words you'd never think go together, are actually from the same root. This one is waw, alif, dal. Well, guess what? This is identical to this. Talking about hands. So you ignore this. There's no other consonant. So dal is the second letter. It's just doubled. And this is just a vowel. Could be waddad, yaddad, addad. All the same. This doesn't mean the words made from them are the same. It's just that all the words collect under this umbrella. I mean, I've gone through so many of them in the past few days. Here's another one. Yum. Notice there's no other consonant. It's just a vowel and the same consonant repeated. Okay? So, ammam, is related to yum. Same with wammam, if that's even a root. But this is how things have to come first. Then we can look at all of the other patterns, like anagrams. Let me give you some idea of the secondary patterns that come from here, okay? So, yeah. I wonder if I can make like a, probably should have had it set up here. One sec. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. Pretty much halfway through of this idea. All right. So let's do text box. Okay. Number one, anagrams. So these are all just secondary patterns. So once you have all these roots sorted out, and it'll take a bit of time, then you can go into this category. I'll call these secondary word associations. Working title, I guess. Here's the word for kufr, right? This is a root in there. It doesn't change at all because they're all consonants. Well, an anagram of this would be fikr. That's the simplest association so far. You can have total 6, I think. So another one is faraka. Okay. These are all possibilities. That doesn't mean they exist, but they're just possibilities. And imagine thinking and blaspheming. They're correlated by the Arabic language. Okay. So that's anagrams. Then you have palindromes. So because the roots function as a code, that means that that code is extremely important. All right. Think about it. If you have a gene, and let's say in your DNA, that gene is 3 base pairs long, CAT. What happens if you switch them around? That's a mutation. So the order matters when it comes to the roots in Arabic. So like I mentioned, palindromes, they're actually read backwards and forwards the same way. So I'll give you an example of this. The word for 3. ثلث. That has everything to do with the concept of 3. ثلثة. Okay. What's another pattern? This is a type of anagram that I call inversions. Okay. And mind you, they're aware of this stuff because the Satanists, they do it all the time. In fact, most of the companies in the world have acronyms that are 3 letters long. Is that just a coincidence? Like, why would they choose to do that unless there's a basis to it? It has a power to it. Every letter represents a concept. NBC, ABC, CBC, USA, UAE. That's what they do. And now you can reverse this, right? So this is a type of anagram where it's literally the backwards of it. So if you have harafa, that's the word for letter. And this is really cool. Faraha. What does faraha mean? Like farhan. Fariha. To be glad, happy, joyful. Farhan. So if you reverse the word for letters, haruf, you get something happiness, glad tidings, joy. It's always consistent. You can't get this in any other language where Arabic names these things very specifically. But now what I'm telling you is how to connect them. Because think about this, guys. In my other stream, I was talking about getting a translation of the Quran together that quite literally takes all the information from the Arabic and puts it into English. I know it seems like an impossible task, but the problem is it's not that we are not scholars, it's not that we don't know Arabic. The problem is that they've already accounted for that they know there will be people at some point in the future who will try to ignore the blind obedience of the day. And so they have a contingency plan in place. First, they manufacture the history to make you think that they wrote this Quran in 1924. Then, 100 years later, you have shills on the internet telling you that this Quran is written by mankind, and the real Quran is nobody knows where it is. Then they have all kinds of dubious explanations around the Quran, aka Sunni Islam, aka Orientalism, so that you, the layman, just think the whole thing is not worth looking into. It's too complicated. Nobody can figure it out. If you reverse the sequence of what they did, then the door is open for you to explore this book that is so relevant today that it's kind of an injustice that it hasn't been explored this way. Maybe this is just part of the times. So let's go through some. Yeah, poetic lesson. I don't have time to get into that, but yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Salam alaikum, Suleiman. One sec. Okay, birdsong. Yeah. Can we find a concept in all the names? You mean the names of the messengers, right? I'm going to go into that a bit. Yeah. That's something they really don't want you to look into, is what do the names of the messengers mean? Have you ever thought about this, birdsong? Yusuf, Ibrahim, Musa. Muhammad is kind of obvious, like Muhammad, they just let that one slide. Yes, 100% yes, the names of the prophets are connected to actual meanings. Why would you name somebody a name that doesn't mean anything? Okay. But before I get to that, I just want to give you some idea of what the Quran is capable of doing. So, here's another one. So, this is all you're doing here is just kind of moving one letter of the three to the first position, inverting it. Really, you have the same idea. And I mentioned this in another stream, by the way. That if you actually put these two words together, Bahar and Rahab, you get an attribute of the other, of the twin. Bahar is the sea, Rahaba is vastness, like the sea. That's a reflection. Then you get pretty much the most common type of root now you can imagine, repetitions. So this is the word for going astray, something that's lost, dolal, dallala. Okay, that's one example. It can also happen here, babala, babel. It can also happen here, tabata. Then these ones are called transitions, and these are, don't get too hung up on the jargon. It's just meant to kind of differentiate them. So you have bakara, and then you have, just substitute the kaf, you have baqara. Kaf and qaf, they go hand in hand. Translations are kind of similar idea, where you have two letters that are not necessarily attached to each other, but they have a lot of, they're kind of like, what would you call it? contiguous in a way. So you have nakhala, and then you have nahala. So the nakhl are trees that require pollination. So of course they're going to be related to nahl, bees. And substitutions, yeah, I think I've mentioned this one, but you can go like through all kinds of different patterns like this. But what I want to show you, if you guys are new and you haven't seen what I've been mentioning, so let's just say you have this word, and I'm going to use the salah example because it's really easy. Asl, wasl, origins, roots, authenticity, source, connection, joining, reaching, contact. You can see where it's going. There is no yas, but this is basically, if you have a vowel, I mean, you just put a placeholder here, right? Just kind of use the at symbol. That would take every vowel into account. But this doesn't work actually because you already have two consonants. This is what it actually is. All of these fit under this category. Even salah. Whatever you want to put in here. Here's another one. I already mentioned this is a 4-letter root that just doubles. There's other non-Quranic roots as well. Sawwala, I mentioned. It's all under this umbrella. All right. Thank you, Hatham. We're on the same wavelength. It is Burhan. Ibrahim is Burhan. And let me show you. It just makes sense because Burhan is proofs. So this root is all consonants, baraha. One of the words that comes from it is Burhan. Then you have Ibrahim. Ibrahim, you just remove the vowels. Remember I told you Islam, Ihsan, Iman. That's what Ibrahim has here. It's one of these alifs. It's not part of the root. You take it out. And let me show you how. You take this out. BR. That's a vowel. Ha. And this is an ending. Him is just an ending. In the same way that Zaqum, right, is an ending as well. It's actually just Zain, Qaf, Qaf. You can do this with so many things. Yes, it's in the Arabic language, you'll find that the word ism is related to your rank in this life. Sama is something in levels, like in the heavens, exalting, high up. Your designation, your name, your status, your reputation. It's related to the ranks that are in the heavens. Sama, ism. So that's why when I say title and name, it's synonymous in Arabic. What we would call a title in the Quran is something that you just would not call a child, like Dhul Qarnayn. That's a role. Masih, a role. You know, Dhunnun, that's a role, like a title, right? But think about title and name makes sense. They're synonymous because when you write an essay, you come up with a title, which is a name for your essay. And it's assessed according to its merit, exactly like people are in this life. Hope that makes sense. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Yes, yeah, welcome to the stream. I'm just kind of going on here. Let me see here. Yeah, absolutely. Peace, justice, compassion. Suleiman is a great example of something they will never put in any root, even though it's obvious what it is. Suleiman. Salama. Ismail. That's another one. Sama'a. Hearing, listening. Yeah, exactly. That's why I brought it up, Haytham. Burhan. They actually put it as a 4-letter. You know how you have like 4-letter words and they're always like swear words? It's kind of like a cruel joke, you know, you put the Quran into this category as well. Yeah, I mean, that's something I kind of not at that stage at the moment. Bara'a. That these categories of words are actually made up of smaller ones even. So like, for example, sama. It has the word ma in there for water. Yeah. Ismail, it's just the same thing we did with Ibrahim. Let me show you. Remember, is used for some kind of like the epitome of a process, right? So like, let me start another thing here. It's getting crowded here. Okay. So let's say, you know, you have ihsan. That comes from this idea. Hasana. Hasana. Islam. Salama. Oops. Iman. Amana. But this actually would just be mannan. Just related to wishing. It's related to that thing called manna as well. What else is there? You can kind of tell which words are used in addition to vowels, which letters are used as the kind of fillers, modifiers. So for example, this word istinsar, okay? This actually is istinsar, which comes from the verb for triumph, nasara. Okay, so istinsar means triumph, victory, okay? But look at how many letters are in there, not part of the root. Sin, ta, aleph, right? So continuing on with this, if you have somebody called Israel, this is a person in the Quran, right? I've told you already this is related to the word Isra. They say that this is related to this root. What's glaringly apparent is it's actually related to this root. I kind of distinguish between the sin and the sad, lowercase, uppercase. So you have sarar. Look at how this works. Traveling. Sayyir. And this never made sense to me. Why do we have these anagrams all the time around vowels? Why can't they all be part of the same thing to make it simple? Well, they are. Secrets. This actually is the word for sarar. But what's interesting, if you go to the Quran, you'll find that You get this thing, couches. What does couches have to do with secrets? Well, this thing called sururin, they move. They're floating, marfu'a, raised, and they move like UFOs, like a flying carpet. And sarar is all about this greater, I mean, pretty much what you call the Isra is the epitome of this traveling, right? It's called the night journey. The night journey is a form of transportation that's the best kept secret in the world. And Sayr, to go on a walk, yeah. Sayra is journey, bird song, correct? Salam alaikum, Rukaya Jannah. Salam alaikum, MEZ. So, oh, Salam Manji, welcome to the stream. Okay. So you got that out of the way, right? I'm kind of reviewing the concepts here. So Israel is a person whose name relates to this idea. What else do we have? Ummah. Okay, Ummah is, one sec here. Did I put it in there? No, I didn't. Okay. So here's a proof of concept, okay? Yeah, so Ummah, it's related to mother, it's related to nation, it's related to so many things. We get this root, wow, meme, me. Then we have yam, which they say is a sea or a river. We can't decide. We have ya, meme, meme. If I go back to Aleph, I think there's one for that one as well. Yep, there is. Imma. This is related to leaders. Oh, that's so cool. So there is no wa meme meme. It's just this, okay? So you get from this root, leaders like imam, mothers, nations. Here you get sea, river, tayammum, okay? Why is there no wow? Because notice there's only one consonant there, meme. That's it. So you just do the same thing I did with ajaja. You take this idea as vowel, meme, meme, done. This encompasses all of these ideas, these words. So like when you go here, aleph, meme, meme, amina, ummun, ummi, ummatun, ummiyin, imam, umam. All right. Done. Masih. Masih, 3 consonants here. Mim, Sin, Ha. Again, the vowels just extend something, right? Yeah. Well, there is no vowel apparently, but basically it's under the same umbrella because, like, you know how there's different vowels, right? Aleph can be u, e, a, e, all at once. Just aleph, that picture, that letter. Wow. Wow can be also the same thing. U. Ya can also be like, you know, e, a. That's where the diacritical marks come here. Yeah, birdsong. I actually mentioned that in the beginning. Believe it or not, if you go to the beginning, this is what's related to kind of washing, purifying. So you can see more of the explanation there if you want. Salam, Ibu, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you. All right. All right. So for those of you that just came, this is what it's about. So let's do a bit of a I'm going to give you these 3 words, 3 roots, and we're going to go through them together like it's, you know, math class. And you let me know what they are. These are all from the Quran. Okay. This is the root for earthquakes. Okay, I'm not sure about the other 2. Let me just check here just to... Sorry, I'm not as prepared as I like to be. That's how things go. Yep. Okay, this is pretty cool. And again, you can just go peruse for yourself. What is this reduced to? We want 3 letters. We have 2 consonants. And we have this order. What you get is zallal. This is related to making you slipping. As if, you know, you can see the relationship between earthquakes and someone losing their balance, right? Like there's an earthquake, right? Simple. Let's look at dhib. Just give me 1 sec here. So this one will become dhib. And this one will become hassas. So let's just go to what those mean. And this is a live analysis, by the way. Dhib. They have this as wavering. Okay, I can't vouch for that, but let's just say that's what it means. If you go to dababa, that root is also in the Quran. That's used for the fly. Dhubab. Okay? Kind of how it flies around, circling endlessly. And hassas. And it's not all of them, by the way, but it's a good amount. Let's go to that one, shall we? Hasad, hasad. Hashasa. He said, "What was your affair when you sought to seduce Yusuf from himself?" They said, "Forbid Allah, not we know about him any evil. Now manifest the truth." So they're saying this means to manifest, to be quick in going, or journeying, or in pace, to be removed or stripped of, to strive or labor, exert oneself. Interesting. We don't have the hassles in there, so it'd be interesting to look into that one. But clearly, like, there is a basis to all of this, right? Well, peace, justice, compassion, that's not exactly accurate, because barada is with a dal, whereas Ramadan has a meme and it has a dad. It's a bit distinct in there. But thank you for sharing. All right. Now let's see if I can just kind of expand upon that. You can look at some harder ones. Okay. For some of the four-letter roots, you actually have to be a bit diligent. You have to use your due diligence. And the reason why is because it's not obvious which is the consonant that's the modifier. It's not part of the root. So for example, let's start with one just to show you the concept, right? So if we go to this root, it's called kaukab. Kaukab is the word for planet. Okay. Let's see. Here it is. Kaf wa kaf ba. So it's not very apparent from the get-go. What does this root reduce to? If you want a three-letter code, how do you see this word for star, wandering star, or planet, kaukab? What's interesting is mostly, one sec here. Mostly what you see here is usually they will give you the answer somewhere. They have to. They have to reveal things in a way that people are accountable. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So this is a long list of Quranic as well as non-Quranic words that are formed apparently on four letters. Look, you can already see ramram. Is this ramram? Rafraf, raffaf, ra. It's just ra. Okay. But let's look at the one for kaukab. So they don't have it on here, but I will find it for you here. So the word for planet. You go down. Usually they give you a translation in every language. It's right here. Kawkab. First thing you'll notice is this Proto-Semitic, apparently, root called kebkeb. Okay? So when you have it like this, let's just let me just show you what I mean. Maybe I'll start another text here, okay? So, why is it doing that? Okay, you guys can see that. So the word is kawkab. They tell us comes from this arbitrary root called, kaf wa, kaf ba. Done. Then you notice that in the Quran, and this is why the Quran is so key, you can find this other root, and it's called kebkeb. Let me just see if I can find it for you. One sec here. Here it is. Fakubkibu. Overturning. Turn something upside down. Kubkibu. You guys see that on the screen? That's from the Quran. Kebkeb. It's already there. And we know what to do with this format now that I've shown you what to do. Okay. This is a verb that's in this form. And there's one more of importance to highlight. Sorry, my internet's kind of slow on this website. And that's kabbaba. Here it is. Look at that, guys. To overthrow, put on the face on the ground, overturn. I just showed you keb has the same meaning as kabbaba. What they didn't tell you is it's related to stars. Kawkab. And the reason why is because if I go back, you can see it when it's visual like this, right? This becomes this. And so all of these words are under this root. Done. Yeah, Muhammad, it's a planet. It's a specific type of star. Venus, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, Jupiter. And welcome to the stream, by the way. If you go to the word kawkab, here it is. One of those planets is mentioned 3 times. Peace, Brother Muhammad. Thanks for joining us. So one of those planets is mentioned 3 times. And then it has 2 mentions where it's the whole group. What's interesting about this is the kawakib, actually, they're related to the end of the world. So if you go to this verse, right? This is the nearest heaven. It's called as-sama ad-dunya. It's not really the nearest heaven. It's actually like the heaven of the dunya. That's all it is. It's related. Dunya is related to nearness, but dunya is its own word, its own concept in that category. This is what the kawakib are a part of. And the other idea from this, al-kawakibu, they scatter. Antadarat. What is this? And this is in Surah Al-Infitar, the cleaving. Interesting, right? It's related to the sama. Sama infatarat. Al-kawakibu intadarat. So you guys probably understand by now that by the time the hour comes, the day of judgment, the events of the hour, which are all in the Quran, there's a massive conformational change of the universe. The cosmic order shifts like you've never seen it before. So there's no need for 7 heavens. There's no need for planets. There's no need for a lot of, even the stars fall and everything. Because what's coming here is this kind of convergence. The akhirah is on its way. It's already there. It's already somewhere. And the dunya is collapsing to make way for the akhirah. So a lot of things that separate the dunya from the akhirah are no longer needed. The souls are paired. The criminals are paired with their jinns in hell. Those will be their gods. They're, that's what they go for eternity. And then what happens is the people of Jannah, they're put in their proper place. Everything comes full circle. So this is what I'm getting at is these 4-letter roots, they already tell you. They already tell you what it's supposed to be. So it's just like, when you're doing algebra, right? It's interesting, an Arabic word, algebra. And you're given this long kind of formula. And the teacher says, simplify this algebraic equation. So you do. That's exactly how these words are like. It's kind of freaky if you think about it. Like, the Arabic language is so precise that everything reduces down to its origin easily. And you can derive so many words just from one root. That's why, for example, usul, roots, fara', branches. You ever wonder why that man is called Fir'aun? He wants to ascend the heavens. The branches of this tree are in the heaven. Fir'aun wants to ascend those branches. That's why it's called Fir'aun. That's his obsession. Let me show you another example, okay? So, Yusuf, nobody really, they just say, okay, this is a root with ya, sin, fa, right? Like, let me show you. Okay. This is why this work is so interesting to me. Because there's so much room to study. So Yusuf apparently comes from this root. This is a word, Yusuf. What does that mean? Nobody knows. Nobody actually. Sometimes they'll go back on Hebrew and they'll say, well, it's a Hebrew word or something like that. But I already told you guys, like, if you just take those consonants, saffaf, there's even a concept of this root called sof, ranks of angels. As-sofat, as-sof. They actually confused Yusuf for an angel. They said, this is not a man, this is an angel. And even as an orphan, Yusuf was exalted to a high status, a high rank. So you see that the power of understanding all of this is you are basically putting the kalimat of Allah in their proper places. Do you know why that's so dangerous? Allah talks about people that have taken the words of Allah and have used and distorted the words from their proper usages and proper places, so you don't see the truth. Now think about it this way. There's a lot of words in the Quran that evade meaning. They evade detection of what it means. Like a good example, Ibu is khunnas. Kunnas. There's not a lot to go off of in the Quran because I think the problem is that we're so accustomed to having words that have so many words from a single root that when there's like one word from one root that it's not mentioned once or twice, it becomes very vague very quickly what that means. Kanasa, outside the Quran, is understood to have something to do with sweeping by, like a broom is a miknas. It's so funny that like the word for church is not actually in the Quran. Kanisa. They put church as bay'un, bay'atun, bay'. That has nothing to do with the church or Christianity. Kanisa is both a church and a synagogue in Christianity. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I always wondered that too, like Muhammad, Ba'al, how like they put it, it's mentioned as like a husband, but then it's Ba'al. Ba'al is a deity, right? That claims to create life. So Allah is, so he's the best of the creators. And this is the issue. We can analyze these things currently and say like, okay, how does Ba'ala relate to Ba'ra, and how does Ma'al? Like, you can look at so many of these like patterns like I have on the screen in the top left corner. However, what will make your life so much easier is first kind of assimilate all the roots that you can in these different ways that I've shown you. And if you get them all kind of, you should see a pattern, by the way. You should see kind of like an intelligence behind that ordering. But what's interesting is that if you do it that way, then you don't have to wonder. Like, look at that one for salah. You see? Sallal. There's 6 roots from this one. That's a lot easier to work with than a multiplicity. But the purpose of this stream is not to just go and bore you with all of the different, you know, conclusions that I think are really important with the Quran. The purpose of this stream is to show you the keys to unlocking the Quran in our time fully, if Allah wills, which I think at this stage in the game, there is a lot happening in the world. There's a lot of polarization, and clearly, I think that it's not a coincidence we're talking about these things at this time. And somehow or another, the Quran just constantly in the background telling us, informing us what it's all about in the end. If you have a list, like a glossary of all of these roots, let me see if I can pull it up here. One sec. Maybe I can show you guys what I mean. Never mind. Okay. But yeah, you just have an Excel spreadsheet, right? And one is a list of all the roots they tell us. The next column is what they actually are. Let me see if I can. Okay. You guys see that? That's the idea. Tahta, tahta. So everything in green is the same. That's for ta. Everything that's not green changes. Whoops. I think, yeah, that one is a bit. What you're left with is basically what you're left is 20 roots exactly. For Jim, I think it was 50 exactly. Tha, it was 20 exactly. So it takes effort. It's a bit tedious, to be honest, but the prospect is exciting. Why? Because we're constantly told how the Quranists have nothing. They have no history, they have no methodology, they have no context, they have no religion, they have no worship, nothing. But it looks like it's actually the opposite is true. What they've been gaslighting the people that believe in the Quran is that the Quran is all true completely. There is no additions to it. It's the same, and I can talk about this like constantly, but the point I'm making is, let's say you go through all of the roots, and trust me, there's a lot of them. Like, for example, what I noticed quickly is that this list on Islam Awaken is not all of them. Some of them are on Quran corpus only. Most of the ones that are not on Quran corpus are on Islam Awakened. You need a complete list, and that might be difficult, but I think if you get as many as you can, then it should all fit symmetrically, right? Let's say you have all of that. Let's say you've done all the work, and everything is a 3-letter code root from the Quran. Now you can do all of this analysis. How do they pair with each other? The power of this is to find all of the words that fit under one umbrella. So then you can reflect and think, why does Allah make this person's name from Burhan, this person's name from Sami'? And then it will dawn on you that the ayahs of the Quran use every single one of these words a certain way across the Quran. So you take all of them that has the word asl, all of them that has wasl, all of them that has salah, yasl. So what you're going to find is the Quran will define everything for you in relation to all the associated words from the same root that you now have reconciled the damage done by these kind of, they're called Yahud in the Quran, that distort words from their proper usages. Words. And so the beautiful thing that's going on is you are essentially regrowing the understanding from the Quran using the roots, firm roots in the ground as a foundation for the branches of all those words in the Quran. You need that because if you want to translate something consistently, as accurately as you can, without bias, without falling back on fallacies and metaphors, this is the way to do it. This opens up a whole new can of worms because now the Quran is demystified even further. In fact, so much so that things start to just kind of compress down to simple little, model that you can apply easily. That's intricate yet elegant. So, this is for you to explore as much as you can. You see, because if you just kind of take this information and just, oh yeah, that's pretty cool, interesting, but the implications of that are far-reaching. They really are. I think that this is a new starting point, at least for me, when it comes to just getting all of the fruits and treasures from the surahs of the Quran. Let me give you an example what you can expect in the future, and certainly that I have a goal of, conquering with Allah's permission. Let's start a new healing here. Okay. This is what we need from the Quran. Because we humans are just incomplete. We need a consistent translation into English. We need, with this translation, a true map of the realm. You need a true timeline of history. We need a true calendar. We need to revive this language in the Quran. Many of these words are not used today as much in Arabic, and so their meaning has been forgotten. Allah says very carefully, like, lisan. We are making for you, alam naj'al lahu aynayn wa lisanan. What else? Yeah, that's a good starting point, I think. The surahs themselves are kind of related to guidance. Why? It's a bit off topic, but let's just go to that word surah. And interesting now with this knowledge, there is some element of transportation involved, right? So you go to surah. Where is it? Here it is. First thing you see is bracelets climbing over the wall. And then it says chapter, surah. Every surah is like an encompassing division, which is really just intricately related to all the other surahs. But a bracelet functions the same way. It encompasses something that it's upon. Asawir. Tasawwaru. They climbed over the wall. Bisurin. A wall. Even though wall is jidar, but the idea is this type of wall from the Arabic dictionaries is it's circular. It goes around the city. It's not simply just like a dividing line. And much like that, surah is this kind of like protected bubble of the verses within the surah. Suratin, a compass. You know that the old meaning for the word compass? What does it mean? Today it's an instrument to guide us. Allah literally says the Qur'an is a guidance. Why? Why is it a guidance? Well, yeah, it gives you some wisdom and it gives you understanding of who Allah is and everything, but it is a guidance. And it's funny that asawir and bracelets and things that enclose or encompass something, like a surah encompasses all the verses within that surah. And the name of the surah gives it away. Scope, range, reach, passing around, a circumference, an enclosing limit. When the people talk in the Quran, they have knowledge. They say, I have encompassed you in knowledge. It's from the name of Allah, Muhayt. Because it's like every single surah of the Quran is a compass. What it encompasses. It goes around like a bracelet. So I imagine that there is some kind of movement involved, right? Because sayyir, surah, sarar, sari, they're all related, all of them. This is what, until now, really, I mean, haven't even thought to kind of, I guess there's been some, people that really have played around with this idea, but it's especially important now. I'm trying to think what else we can look at. Maybe we can do another example. If you guys aren't tired of me at this point. Okay, here's an idea maybe. So if we go to and just, rewind this video and watch it from the beginning. If you're still confused, no problem. This is a word in the Quran, yaqeen. And I guess it means pumpkin or gourd. which is kind of interesting. I think I've mentioned this in other live streams, what this could possibly relate to. And the prevailing scholars of the day give it this root. You can see that, right? Oh, you can't see it. Yaqteen. But there's a glaringly apparent solution. Qatana. That's it. So the words in Quran corpus or whatever that start with a vowel, very likely most of the time are not even going to be from that letter. Let's see if we can find another one too. Just kind of trying to think here. So the word barzakh, right? Barzakh. Isthmus, barrier, boundary. I don't know. You can really, this is the one that's the literal meaning of it, isthmus. So they tell us this is from this root ba, ra, zain, kha. Makes sense. So we have a few options here. One of them can be ba, ra, zain. Another could be ba, ra, kha. Another can be ba, za, zain, kha. Now, usually Muslims are very keen on what barzakh actually has to do with, right? Like it's this kind of realm where things are related to the Day of Judgment. They're related to the afterlife. They're related to the final kind of sprouting from the ground of all the souls that have existed, right? That's the idea behind it, the barzakh. It's beyond this life, the great beyond, the boundary of the living and the dead, essentially. And it's related to two seas as well, between the two seas. So let's look at, is there anything that we can find to make it as impartial as possible that relates to any one of these? Bazzakh. Does that give any similar idea or meaning? Nope. To spend freely? A type of dance? There's not much in there. You can look at also, what was the other one? Barakha. What does that give you? I guess it's a fishing boat, barikh. Barikha. Really not much. And then the third one, kind of process of elimination, bazara. What does that have to do with anything? Oh, I meant to do the other way around. Barazin. This is a lot. It means to come out, show, appear, come into view, emerge, become prominent, become visible, to step out, to protrude, stick out, be prominent, to come up, to arise, to protrude, raised, marked, distinct, important, prominent, outstanding, projection, protruding edge or corner. And I'm pretty sure you can find this root in the Quran too. So what you're trying to do is cover all of your bases in a way. So that barzakh, and what is this? Baraza. You see that, right? A level plane. To come forth, they leave. To come out of. Baraza. Okay. That's what barzakh is related to. It even conveys a similar idea. We even have countries today called like Brazil. Brazil. And the word for copper substances in Arab, in English is brazen, brass. There's something to do with copper, clearly, because the people that made the languages, they have a starting point. They have an edge when it comes to the truth of the matter. So really, I would suggest this is the one. Whoops. This is the one. Let's see if there's any other ideas. Yeah, I mentioned Ibrahim, and let me see here. Yeah, we're already on. How long is it? 2 hours, quarter hour. Yeah. So let me see if I can share my screen. Oh, here's another good example of this, okay? So a lot of people would like to believe that Islam is this violent and kind of anti-human system, way of life. And the Quran is just archaic and not at all. Maybe that's too small. Let me zoom in here for a sec. So they say that this has to do with branding somebody on their nose, right? And they give it this 4-letter root, khurtum, kharata. Let me see if I can open this up. There is no nose in this verse. This is something that they made up. And look at the connotation. Like, you really think that Allah is this kind of like psychopath or criminal that he has to describe things in this way? Like, he can't think of a better punishment, really? This is something that translators and the people that allowed people to translate, they want to convey a certain vibe from the Quran to make it as alien and dangerous and weird and foreign as possible. This root, kharata, there's no need to add a meme in there. Kharata. This actually has a bit more qualities than just, poking around someone's nose, to mince, to chop pieces, pull off strip leaves from a tree, to boast, brag, lie, is related to the word kharita, which means map. Interesting. It's related to cones as well. You get so much more information by just not taking their word for it. And this is a way that they also radicalize Islam as well. Where, I mean, think about it. Like, why doesn't Allah say your nose, your chins, your elbows, your ankles? He doesn't. He says al-ka'bayn for the two ankles, al-marafiq for the elbows. Does that really describe anatomy for humans? Or is there more to the... You see, if you don't get the roots right, you will miss critical information, evidence, to point you in the right direction. That's why this is such an interesting stream for me personally, because now there is a way of reconciling all of it. And they tell you that you can't do this, it doesn't exist, we don't know what Arabic is, we don't know anything, we're just, hopeless, everything is just helpless, we're just waiting for some expert to tell us everything. And maybe one day we should just give them all of our Qur'ans and let them explain to us what it all meant. Maybe it's just a historical document, doesn't apply today. No, rubbish. What it is the ultimate, just explicit declaration from the creator of the heavens and the earth. There's actually a place called Khartoum. It's in Egypt. Or Sudan. Sorry, I meant Sudan. And you're going to notice this a lot. Quranic terminology just finds its way in geography, finds its way in history, finds its way in sciences as well, of different languages altogether. This word is in the Quran. So why did they name this civilization, this city, officially capital city of Sudan, Al-Khartoum? Apparently was founded by this Muhammad Ali Pasha, who maybe I can get into another stream, has a very similar life story to the portrayal that they put of Muhammad ibn Abdullah in Hadith. Okay. But anyway, Khartoum, place where rivers meet. Nobody knows. Is it from Arabic trunk or hose? Where did they get this trunk or hose? Because I only understand it to mean something that's cut. Maybe that means Khartoum, safflower, because there's oil. They try to make it anything other than what is glaringly apparent. One of the ways humanity is in a stranglehold is through this confusion. It's psychological warfare. If you can constantly sow doubt into one book that explains everything else, that's it. That you don't have to do anything else. The people will fill in the blanks themselves. Yeah. What else can we show? So that was one case where kha was removed. I'll show you another one, and this is kind of interesting if you want to look at it. Zukhruf. Let's see if I can pull that up for you. So here's another inquiry. Whoops. Zukhruf, chapter 43. And means like gold ornaments, It means, decorations and jewelry, etc. Now, they tell you that this is based off the root zain, kha, ra, fa. So I'll do this one and I'll do one more just to show you guys that there is a lot to invest when you're down this path. Like, it does take a lot of work. But the more you do it, the more familiar you are with things, it'll click. Because we're not actually discovering things, we're remembering things. Let me repeat that. The Quran is a dhikr of something that you already know subconsciously, but you need to derive it. You need to actually do work to remember. It's like we are all born with amnesia. And we grow up in the world with the school system, medical system, legal system, academia, everything. And we're just left hanging the whole time. We're just given no purpose to anything. Sometimes they'll tell you your purpose is to pray 5 times a day. Other times is your purpose is to just make money and have a job. So clearly we are, like you said, AI, rediscovering what's already there. Fitra. What does fitra come from, by the way? Fatara. Infitar. Fatir. Fitra. Eid al-Fitr. Cleaving, some opening up something. The hearts that don't understand, they're closed, solid, like a rock. Like, someone doesn't understand, they're a closed book. Fitra. There's some kind of a blossoming going on, if you can imagine. The reincarnation thing is kind of, can be a bit misleading, birdsong, because I think, like I mentioned before, it kind of bypasses the judgment, and it easily becomes this kind of like endless lives and millions of lives until, there is no justice in that, in my opinion. And I think that there's kind of a glaring problem when the same soul can just inhabit as many bodies as it can. Like, there's no value attached to the actual body that Allah creates. But that's a whole other thing. Okay. Zukhruf. So you see what that means, right? So, like I did before, it's just complete logic, right? Rationale. You have, again, 3 options. You're going to notice this pattern of 3 everywhere. Zakhara, Zain, Kha, Fa, Zain, Ra, Fa. That's it. One of them is just a placeholder, some kind of a modifier to create a word out of this root. And I'll just cut to the chase, is this one. Zain, Ra, Fa. Why is it this one and not the others? Oh wait, is it this one? That's like, here it is. Where did we go? Let me find it here. My apologies. Can't find it. What's up, guys? Um, yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. I should have probably saved where I was looking at that, but yeah. Let me just go back. One sec here. Oh, here's an interesting one. I'm gonna put this in the chat. Firdaus. Jannat al-Firdaus. So maybe we can put, see, Quran corpus doesn't put it as its own thing. But essentially, what you see here is Firdaus is just the S is added at the end. Farada. That word is something that relates to setting apart. Like unique, only. Like the word Farid. Farida. Let me show you. You see that? Firdaus is related to Farada, Farid, unique, matchless, precious, one alone, set apart from the others. Jannat al-Firdaus. So the S is just some kind of grammatical thing that's added in there, like, sayasli. The sa is related to things in the future. There's specific letters that are added to words that don't actually belong in the root. Yeah, so, first thing comes to mind is freedom, farida, freedom in English, but that's just the kind of qualitative connection. What I'm interested in is how can we use Arabic to explain Quran? Because that's what it's in. Yeah, I've kind of gone 2.5 hours now. So this is a unique starting point that I think is kind of like a gateway to really consolidating all of the questions people have had about the Quran for so long. And finally getting some kind of a offline just translation where you open it up, the first thing you see is a root for every single word in there, like a glossary. So you don't need to rely on Quran corpus anymore. Eventually, we want to kind of transcend these websites and the dictionaries by having all the information there extracted from the Quran. And this is so dangerous, if you're trying to control the world, because now you have a Quran that's, basically has more functionality, right? Um, so yeah, you go to all of these ones, all these various different roots. They're really codes if you think about it, like seeds. So you plant a seed, and out from the seed comes a plant. And it's not apparent really what kind of plant it is. A lot of the seeds look very similar. But this is the idea. I mean, you ever wondered why there's a tree associated with knowledge in many stories? Do you know, I think I mentioned this in a video with Endgame Islam, and maybe it's worth repeating. But in the English language, the word truth, where do you think that word comes from? The word truth. What's the etymology according to English? It comes from tree. Solid, foundation, veracity, truth. Tree. That's why they had these people called druids. Truth is related to this process. Kalimat in the Quran are related to trees, and their roots come first before all the various branches of the family of words. Human beings are in the same categorization to this day. All of your ancestors, descendants, I mean, you're from a family tree yourself. And yeah, it's like AI, like you're saying, how there's even a tree of data as well, tree of probability. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Birdsong. I agree. Like, the reason why there are so many ex-Muslims in the world is mainly because they have made an assessment about the Quran without actually doing anything except taking the Quran at face value. And I mean, imagine, like, if you're a person who's not represented accurately in the public, and everyone sees this person, oh, they're a liar, they're a criminal, they're this, but they've never had a fair portrayal, they've never had an actual defense in any way, you would sympathize with that person because they have the right to share their side of things. I think the time has come for the Quran to speak for itself in actuality. Instead of us, humans, constantly trying to explain away things. Oh, we don't know. This is just how the prophets, scribes wrote down the Quran. We have no idea why things are spelled differently. These little symbols were added here. These markings were added here. The Quran has been memorized, however many mixtures of recitations there are. Oh, this verse is abrogated. This verse doesn't apply anymore. It applies only in ruling, but not in actual scripture. This verse means something that happened to the prophet's life where he was debating a Jew, and so this is stuck in his time period. This is what we get. Okay. And yeah, I think I'm going to have to leave it for there. But thank you so much for spending this time. I think what we see is there is some kind of a concerted effort to constantly sow doubt in this revelation, the Quran, because the knowledge and truth and gems and reality and everything from this book, if you really understand that, if there is some kind of a way, feasible way, can resurrect this meaning that's been forgotten. So the Quran becomes a dhikr, it becomes a huda, becomes a nur, it becomes a furqan. Wouldn't you like to see a future where the Quran is just returned to its former glory? Like when the Prophet, peace be upon him, was sharing it with us. I know I certainly would. And there's just too many distractions. There's too many things, dramas and things going around the central issue. That's why they called this, the root of the issue. And really, birdsong, you have to imagine, right? This path puts you in the perspective of a lone wolf in the icy desert, in the tundra, and you're looking for sustenance. You're on this path. You're trying to find guidance. Allah is your provider. He's your sustainer on this journey. There's no one else that can help you. You feel alone. You feel stuck in this kind of paradigm, and the only way out is with Allah. He's the one that guides. He's the one that provides. He's the one that establishes truth from fiction. He created you. You will return to Him. So you can imagine why the thumbnail has this idea in there, with the aurora in the background, thankfully, because, what we're going to see is this is something we're called to. The wolves, the animals, they call to God, they call to Allah all the time. They're submitted to Him. It's just the humans and the jinn, they have their own, many of them, they have their own kind of intentions and agendas. But we're in this night, we're in this darkness. And it may just be that this time is so extraordinary because it may be the beginning of this paradigm changing. Not on the terms that they'd like you to have, where they have these set up theories and all this that detract away from the Quran constantly. Have you noticed every single conspiracy theory, every single, just understanding or discipline or espoused belief, even religion, they all detract away from this book as the central premise. So call to Allah. Ask Him to guide you. Ask Him to bring you out of the darknesses into the light. Like that wolf. You're on this path alone. You will return to Him alone. So I think we can use our time wisely if we wish, if Allah wills, to get as much sorted out as we can. We don't even know how many generations will come after us. We could even be the last one. And in that case, I think it's up to us to kind of do something, It's shocking. If you've watched this channel, like a good amount of videos, even if you don't agree with anything, which is fine, where's all this coming from? There has to be a basis for this channel existing, right? The basis of this channel existing is all the gaps the modern Islam never touched. They just explained away. Imagine all of these. If you're a Sunni Muslim listening, or a Shia, if you're a Christian or a Jew, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you probably don't care to watch, but let's say that you're interested in the Quran. Well, let me tell you, the Muslims of today, in their respective sects and orders and kind of Freemasonic rituals, if you can say that. I don't know. The word is used all over the place. But here's the point. These Muslims, they call themselves Muslims. They dress like Muslims, apparently. They have their beards and their hijabs and everything. This entire channel is an archive of everything they ignored. I mean, it's not even probably 1% of it, but so far is all ignored. They want to live in ignorance because of their precious little sects, or their precious little imams can have a little fun in this dunya, ruling and making rules for people, like pretending they're angels. The non-Muslims, apparently, I can't even use these terms anymore. They're not accurate to the people they apply to today. The people that don't have anything to do with Islam, they just have nothing. It's like everything else is important. Why not take it to this why not take it to this kind of practice where nobody owns this information? Nobody has a monopoly over it. Nobody has a divine right or anything to covet this or keep it from people or whatever. No, that's all nonsense. This knowledge belongs to Allah. Anything you figure out in this life, any success you have, any measure of health or peace, any blessing, that comes from Him, not you. And you're right, Kenneth Blaine. It's Kabbalah. Yes, Kabbalah. That's the problem. That's the problem. Everybody wants to have their own personal qibla. Follow me. I am the end all and be all. No. Allah has a greater plan for everything in the creation. You will be returned to Him. You will be gathered, so there's a convergence. Everything will be revealed, so all the lies will disappear, literally. And what will remain is what was always true from the beginning. The people that were pretending to be believers, they will be in the lowest hell if they do not repent in this life. The people that don't know who they are, they're just, I don't know, I believe in God, I don't know, I don't have any context. Allah will guide them if they're sincere. If they're sincere to the truth, to Him, Allahul Haq, He will guide them. That's why there is no conversion to this thing called Ad-Din al-Islam, Millat Ibrahim Hanifan. No, you can't. Your actions, your life will show what you are in the end. We're all named after actions. Kafirin, Mushrikeen, Munafiqeen, Zalimin, Jahilin, Salihin, Mu'mineen. Can go on and on and on. Actions. That's what the hereafter preserves for eternity. You're the criminals. You go here. You are the patient ones. You go here. That's justice. It's not that you're born in a Muslim family. It's not that you're born in some kind of a tribe or bloodline. It's not that you're born into a wealthy family, or a man or a woman, or you have perfect health or you have a disability. It's about your capacity and what you do with it. It makes perfect sense that what we find ourselves in today is this confusion that is slowly dissolving to reveal what it was covering the whole time, the truth. If you think that this book needs explanation outside of itself, please point me to something other than obey Allah and obey the Prophet, obey Allah and obey the Messenger, or whatever the Prophet gives you, whatever the Messenger gives you, take it. The Kitab and the Hikmah, the Prophet, the Messenger explains the Quran. These are tired excuses. They really are. Do yourself a favor. Just pretend like it's your last day on earth. And you're given a choice. What are you going to spend that day, however long it is? It could be the last day, which is going to be a lot longer than the days we're used to. What are you going to do? How will you prepare for the hour? I mean, you think of all the obvious things, right? Oh, well, you can work out a lot and you can get into good physical shape so you can fight, the Ya'juj zombies or whatever they have. Maybe they'll join the army of the Mahdi. Maybe you'll fight the kuffar. And no, that's not how you prepare for the hour. Allah says very clearly, countless times, the ones who lose in the end are the ones who fail to remember. Remember what? Allah's remembrance. That's it. Because that's the only thing that will keep you from falling into these traps that necessitated you investigating the Quran for itself. You actually wouldn't be here if there weren't these diversions by Shaitan. He's sitting of the straight path. What does that mean? It means he's lying in wait for anybody that has any aspect of insincerity towards Allah's plan. And so I don't think it's fair to even categorize people as even like Sunni Muslims and all this. These are all just like catchphrases. Non-Muslims, Shia Muslim, Sufi Muslim, even like Orthodox Christian, Reformed Jew. These have no value to Allah. It's something we created to mask the reality. And you might see somebody on the street that, you think is an open enemy to the Quran and they hate God and they don't believe in anything. That same person could be guided to a high degree of knowledge, to high status with his Lord. We have no idea what the plan is for every single person. But trust me, everybody was in a state of ignorance. Allah says you are born not knowing a thing. Allah teaches you what you do not know. So there is this empathy that I think humans naturally have on this path. That we can't just like go and judge people really that, oh, you don't know, you're a lesser person, or you're not on my level. That's not what it's about. That's what Allah calls jealous animosity between the believers that actually divides them. The nations of the past did not get divided into these cults except through jealous animosity. This is a human tendency. And it's exploited by Shaitan. So really put the focus on the truth, on the book, not on the personality, not on the drama. This is our test. We're emotional creatures. And I think Salah reminds us to hone, focus our passion, our drive, and our energy, our emotions that benefit us, that are productive. Well, Birdsong, here's the thing. I appreciate the comment, by the way, and I think it's very accurate. But in the end, we're just vehicles for Allah's will, like whatever He wants. Someone can be a vehicle for oppression that necessitates people that uphold justice. Everything's connected like that. But guess what? As time goes on, it will become more obvious and more obvious and more obvious and more manifest, because that's the nature of bayyinat. Something like a declaration of mubin. Allah says the Quran is mubin, clear. I'd rather get on that path before it's harder to walk that path. Maybe, cut down some of the impediments on that path for people that come after me. It's kind of like, here's the problem with humanity. If you don't tell them absolutely everything, like all the explanations that would satisfy them, they're not satisfied. It's like you have to actually do all the work for them. People get so lazy. That's what this test is about. And it's amazing too, like the prophet was talking to people like this. They would say, why doesn't he come down with angels in succession? Why doesn't he have these bracelets around him? They demand too much without doing anything. And so what my goal is for this channel is to culminate in literally a understanding of the Quran that it makes it builds on all of the good work that's been done by believers in the past and goes as far as we can to just everything that we've forgotten about what this book represents. You're absolutely right, Kenneth Blaine. Islam doesn't need humanity. It existed before humanity. And so we're just the fulfillment of Islam. And that's why I think even da'wah is kind of like a bit more nuanced than you'd think. It's not just about this kind of Christian idea of winning hearts and minds. It's actually kind of like the people that are always believers, they've always been that way, even if they don't know who they are. Allah knows. And yeah, I'm not sure what I can say more to that effect, but clearly, the way to go about things is to just ignore the opposition, the controlled opposition. That's number one. Never let them get to you mentally that you just doubt this book in some way. Always keep in the back of your mind that this is Allah's speech and it transcends anything they have actually explained about it. This is how I approach the Quran. That even the things that seem just mysterious or doesn't make sense, or just kind of keep that on the shelf, come back to it when you're ready, and go into something that you're comfortable with. I mean, you've noticed that I don't make fatwas or anything. Like I would never do something like that, because that's assuming you just playing God or something. The rulings in the Quran are a totally other field of study. I think what's important for this time is the context, because now Saudi Arabia, Quranic history is out the window. Same with Yemen, same with even the alternative theories, Russia, Europe. That's nothing. That's a little tiny pixel. They always give you this little tiny, like, it's, imagine like you're given like a starship by Allah in the form of the Quran, and the powers that be, they just give you a little tiny wagon as a substitute. They don't want you to be empowered by this book. It's sad, really, in a way. But it's interesting. In Chinese, the word for crisis and opportunity are the same, as if that's all these moments of opportunity. They're all built on a crisis of some kind. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace.